Hello and welcome to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Millie and today's video is going to be all about the Nomad Cosmetics Tokyo palette, which is this palette right here, and it's a beautiful pastel colored palette. They were definitely way ahead of their time with this palette because pastels are super trendy right now, and this palette has been available for at least a year now, a year and a half maybe even. So it's been around for a while and I was really excited to grab it because at that time I didn't have any pastels, but since then I've acquired a little bit of pastels. So along with this palette, I've tried a couple of other pastel formulas, so I definitely have some thoughts and comparisons with that. But as always, I will be giving you all my thoughts on the palette at the end of the video. So now let's get into the 4 looks. So to prime my eyes, I'm using the ABH primer, and it's definitely light enough. It's not white, but it's very light, so I think it's good for these kinds of shades. And I'm totally gonna completely butcher these names, so my apologies. But I'm starting out on the inner corner with the shade Takenoko Zoku, and I'm gonna only keep this on the third of my lid. And then on the outer third, I'm going in with Lolita. And you can kind of see on the lid how it's not matte and it's satin. It has like a very light sheen to it. And then on the center of my lid, I'm going in with Decora on a flat brush. For this look, I didn't use a tacky base, which I wish I did because it definitely helps just really make these shimmers pop. Even though it is still really stunning, I think it just needs that little extra oomph. And I'm gonna connect the lower lash line with Lolita, and then on the inner portion, going back in with the purple. And I'm using Otako to highlight my inner corner and under the brow. For the second look, I'm again priming with the ABH primer. And on the inner crease, I'm going in with Melty and then Kagigori right next to it, which I felt like this shade just did not really translate well on the lid, and I had to go back and keep packing it on as I felt like it was blending away as I put on Now Is Forever right next to it. And those two shades actually kind of also looked pretty much the same once I applied them. And then on the outer portion here, I'm going in with Takenoko Zoku again. And then I'm gonna cut the crease with the ABH primer. And I'm gonna mimic the colors, but I'm gonna be using the shimmers. So first going in with Zaku Zaku on my inner lid, and then Moshi Moshi on the center, and then Takeshita Doru on the outer edge there. And I really had to layer that on. And again, I wish I had used my Farinate Pixie Epoxy. And then to create some separation between the shimmers and the mattes, I'm using the Glam Vice Retro Liner in Blue Raspberry. And then on the lower lash line, I'm just repeating what I did in the crease. So I'm first going in with Tanenoko Zoku, then Now Is Forever, and then Melty Room, and I'm highlighting with Zaku Zaku on the inner corner. For the third look, I decided to switch it up, and I'm using the Makeup Revolution Caprice Canvas in Halo, which is a white shade. And I'm going in with Kuroi Niji in the crease, which this one had almost no pigmentation. I tried building it up, but it wasn't really showing up, and it's on a white base. And then on top of that, I'm layering Visual K and just really focusing that in the crease and blending upwards because I'm gonna do like a half cut crease. And then placing it on the outer edge, and this shade definitely blended out really well. And I'm using the P. Louise base in shade 0 to do a half cut crease. And going in with Visual K and and just blending out that outer edge a little bit. So in the center of my lid, I'm going in with Now Is Forever, and then on the inner portion, I'm going in with Kagigori. And as you can see, they pretty much look the same. They kind of just blended together. And then connecting the lower lash line with my outer crease with Visual K or Key. And then going in with Now Is Forever directly under my lower lashes. And I'm using the ColourPop liner in Zulu for my waterline. And I'm highlighting the inner corner with Moshi Moshi. And I use the ColourPop colored mascara in Kiss and Teal on my lower lashes. For this fourth and last look, I also primed with the Makeup Revolution Cut Crease Canvas in Halo, and I'm first going in with Melty Room in my crease and just trying to pack that on and blend it out. Definitely a very soft shade. And then I'm going in with Kawaii in the crease and kind of just placing it a little lower than the yellow because I'm going to be blending it up. And every time I started blending this, it just disappeared. And I had to keep packing it on and it kept disappearing, blending away. Melty Room was pretty much almost non-existent, even when I tried to place it back on. And then I went in with Gyaru on my lid, and that also blended away Kawaii. So it was just a whole mess. Nothing wanted to stick on. So I decided to go in with the shimmers to kind of cover that up, and I'm going in with my Fairnay Pixie Epoxy. And along my lash line, I'm placing Decora, and then above that, I'm putting Otaku. And then creating a liner with the Glam Vice Retro Liner in Banana Split. And on my lower lash line, I ended up priming a little bit with the Revolution Cut Crease Canvas because I knew the yellow just wouldn't want to stick since I've set it there, and I just wanted something to make it really pop down there. And I did also put on the Yellow Goodbye colored mascara from ColourPop that was layered over their white mascara. And then on the inner corner, I highlighted with Zaku Zaku. And in the waterline, I went in with the ColourPop Lippy Pencil and Gossip. And this is the fourth and final look. I played with this palette a few times before I actually filmed these 4 looks, and I experienced pretty much the same things each time I used this palette. So let's talk more in depth about this palette. You know, I'm gonna give you my honest review. So I've definitely used all the shades and kind of tried them out on different eye bases as well. You definitely want to use a lighter base with a neutral undertone with this palette because otherwise the pastels will just not show up true color, or maybe not even at all. So I recommend something very, very light. I used the Makeup Revolution Cut Crease Canvas in Halo as well as the ABH eye primer, which is pretty light. It's not white, but it's pretty light, so that one is definitely something you could use. So this is actually the second palette that I've tried from Nomad Cosmetics. I had their previous I can't remember what it was called, but it was like, it had a bunch of bright colors, and I was super excited when I got it, and it was very pigmented and very smooth and very soft shadows. However, I wasn't a fan that most of the shades were not true matte. They were pretty much all satin, and I just don't really prefer that formula in general. So I did not end up filming with that one. But from my experience with that palette, I would say that the formula of the Nomad Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes is pretty consistent, but because this palette has pastels, it might be a little bit different formula because pastels are pretty tricky usually to do. So without further blabbering, let's talk about this palette and all the shades pretty much in detail. So let me first talk about the things that I enjoyed about this palette, and those are these duochromes. They're pretty sheer, they're more like toppers. Some of them, this purple and this pink, do have a little bit more opacity, but they're all pretty much topper-like, and I definitely recommend some kind of a tacky base. I used the Pixie Epoxy from Farinay, but I do think they definitely benefit from either being wet or from a sticky base that can just really pack them on, and you can get and hold on to the almost glittery kind of formula that these are. But these are absolutely stunning. I love this row, and I do love that this is like the bottom row and it's just all of the shades, and then that all the mattes are up here. So again, like the other palette that I tried from Nomad previously, these are not really true mattes. They're almost satin, so they feel super smooth and buttery, and they're just nothing like I felt before. Definitely very unique formula. However, because they are so soft, they do like to blend away, and that's something that I had issues with over and over again, is them blending away and not wanting to build up. Now, of course, that could be in part because the fact that they are pastels, but for example, I don't have that issue with my pastels from Letha Cosmetics, as well as the Sugar Pill Fun Size palette, so I just wanted to call that out. I think these two are a bit out of place. Maybe it's just me and I don't know how to pair them with these colorful shadows, but I don't personally prefer them in this palette. I think they could have been changed out for something a little bit more fun that goes along with these other pastel shades. And I'm not going to even try to pronounce these because they're in Japanese, but when I tried to use this one, it pretty much looked like nothing. So I can't even imagine if on my skin tone it looks like nothing, what it would look like on a deeper skin tone. Deeper brown shade. I was so pleasantly surprised. It just really blended beautifully and it packed on and it was stunning. So do like the shade, just not in this palette. Something else I'm going to talk about is this teal and then this deeper teal. I do feel like once they were on the lid, they were pretty similar. They ended up looking very much alike, even if I tried to blend this one in the crease and then this one on the lid. First of all, they didn't want to layer, and second of all, they pretty much just look the same. So there wasn't really much depth in between these two. And then the orange and this yellow, the pink and the purple, and they're pretty pigmented, but they did blend away on me, especially for that one look where I tried to put this in the crease and then layer this in there and then layer Lolita and kind of do a gradient from pink, orange to yellow. The yellow completely disappeared pretty much, and then the orange just would not pack on. It kept blending away. I definitely would recommend using softer brushes versus denser brushes, because denser brushes tend to move this formula away or just completely off the lid. And I think that's pretty much it for these shades. I think a lot of them are pretty consistent in formula within the palette, so they're more satin, very soft. And they do blend nice, but again, I just had so many issues with them blending away, having to pack them on, not wanting to layer on. I tried multiple different eye bases and I haven't had this issue with some other pastels. If I was to want to create a pastel look, I would reach for my Letha Cosmetics eyeshadows or the Sugar Pill Fun Size palette. I hate to say it, but you know, I'm going to be honest with you. As much as I love Nomad Cosmetics, I always see them in people's comments just saying really nice, kind things and really being supportive of smaller artists, as they are a smaller indie brand. And I know a lot of people who love this palette, but unfortunately this palette just is not for me. It's not my favorite formula, and my favorite part about it is really the duochromes. I think those are standout, and I would love to see more shades like that from Nomad in the future. That being said, I also am really looking forward to seeing what they release in the future. And they really like to keep it fresh, and I really love how they use different places as inspiration for color schemes and palettes, and also the packaging. I love their little designs on the outside, all the little patterns that pertain to the theme of the palette. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below which look was your favorite, if you have this palette, what you think of it, and I hope to see you in my next video.